Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents the Brand Mapping Strategy, Design, Build, and Accelerate Your Brand by Karen Tiber Leland, narrated by Karen Tiber Leland. Publisher's note: this audiobook refers to figures included in the print and ebook editions of the book. For my late father, Dr. Norman Tiber, a great tango dancer and an even better teacher. Acknowledgements. It would be impossible to write acknowledgments for this book that accurately reflects all the people in my life who have ultimately contributed to its creation. Fortunately, you know who you are, so I can rest easy with just a few specific shout-outs. Jillian Mateague, Jennifer Dorsey, Vanessa Campos, and Karen Billup at Entrepreneur Media. It's always a joy to work with such pleasant professionals. Nell McPherson for always making sure my commas are in the right place. And Christine Strugnell, my fellow scribe and dear friend, who sat with me for hours on end, tapping away on our laptops, sipping tea, and stopping to laugh and eat chocolate at appropriate intervals. Susan Harrow, Liza and Razin Grassi, Lesson Irving Bernstein, Monica Norcia, Kim Bromley, Jennifer Reimer, Karen and Ron Rosenberg, Deborah Coffey, Colleen Rudio, Teresa and Dawn Sowers, Maggie Weiss, Randy Roberts, Dr. Elise Danis, Carla Madison, Barbara Tiber, Ann Tiber, and Sheila Vasan Singala for being there in good times and bad. Finally, to my clients at Sterling Marketing Group, thank you for allowing me to support you in bringing your messages out into the world. I feel deeply honored to be entrusted with your brands. Preface: The Power of Conscious, Authentic Branding. Over a 9-month period between the summer of 2013 and spring of 2014, I separated from my husband of 22 years, moved from San Francisco to New York, started a new romance and ended it heartbroken, moved back to San Francisco, and filed for divorce. Shortly after, my mother's husband passed away after a long illness, and 2 weeks later, my father unexpectedly died of a stroke. That was not a good year. But the silver lining was that it brought about a forced rebrand in my personal life that had been a long time in coming. The person I knew myself to be was in many ways gone, and 2 of the roles I had held dear, my father's daughter and someone's wife, disappeared almost overnight. This left me disoriented, but with a life-changing sense of vulnerability. Over the next 2 years, I consciously worked to grieve and eventually to reinvent my life and my personal brand from an authentic place that reflected who I had become. The inner work I did naturally spilled over and significantly reshaped my business brand. Along the way, I gained a whole new insight into and appreciation for the power of authentic and conscious branding, be it business, team, or personal. This understanding has transformed my work with CEOs, senior executives, and entrepreneurs, and their businesses, organizations, and teams. The book you now hold in your hands or on your tablet or are listening to reflects what I have learned about creating the awareness, developing the vision, and implementing the strategy you need to organically move a personal and business brand to the next level. Top 10 reasons to buy this book. The people who will get the most out of this book share 2 attributes with my private clients. 1, they hope to bring their personal or business brands to that next level. And 2, they have a relentless desire to contribute their gifts to the world. If you bought this book, or if you're listening to this book, it's likely to be for one or more of the following reasons. 1, you want to expand your current brand outreach and contribution to a bigger audience in your industry, community, or the world at large. 2, you know you need to be head and shoulders above the crowd, sought after and seen as having high value, but you're not always sure how to navigate the branding, PR, and marketing waters to get there. 3, you want to be seen as a thought or industry leader, which requires clear positioning, a specific strategy for brand building, online and off, and a method for implementation, none of which you are sure how to achieve. 4, you are looking to establish a clearer, stronger, or different personal brand within your current company as a path to greater executive presence, promotion, or expanded opportunity. 5. You are so busy with the day-to-day needs of your company that you have not developed the knowledge to do the branding and marketing required to build your business. 6. You have tons of great content that could be better leveraged, but are overwhelmed or confused as to how to effectively and efficiently get it out into the world and build your brand. 7. You believe it is time to rebuild, refine, reinvent, or rev up your personal or business brand, but you're not sure where to start or how to get there. 8. You feel overwhelmed or confused about what your marketing and social media strategy should be. 9. You realize you need to be well-positioned online for career management, but you don't have the knowledge you need to maximize your online reputation. 10. You see your competitors being touted as thought leaders and interviewed by the media and think, that should be me. How to use this book for maximum benefit. I happily spend most of my days at work helping CEOs, executives, and entrepreneurs develop stronger personal, business, and team brands. But like all entrepreneurs, my reach is limited by my capacity. I wrote the brand mapping strategy, Design, Build, and Accelerate Your Brand, as a way to touch all the people I won't ever have the privilege of meeting in person, but for whom this message is still important. With that in mind, there are a few ways that you, the listener, can use this book to gain maximum benefit for your brand. Borrow a lesson from the world of hula. For several years, I studied hula dancing in Hawaii. I was privileged enough to study under a revered, multi-generational kumu, which means teacher in Hawaiian, of hula named Kawai Kapu Okalani Frank Hewitt. Frank has a sign hanging in his hula studio that, when translated into English, means all knowledge is not learned in just one school. This is as true in branding as it is in hula. This book is the accumulation of the work I have done in this area over several decades. The ideas proffered here are not theoretical, but rather come from my professional observations in the field, working with everything from small businesses to Fortune 500 companies in 50 countries around the world and in every industry you can imagine, from software and shipping to banking and baking. While the ideas in this book have been proven over time with my clients, no single author or expert has the final say on what works in branding, hence the sign in Frank's hula studio. My best advice to you in using this book is to take what you like and leave the rest. Don't be afraid to go modular. This book was intentionally written in segments so that you could find the parts in it that are the most important to you at this time. Although I strongly suggest listening to Part 1 first to get a foundational understanding of your business or personal brand, each chapter stands on its own. In addition, I've given many real-life examples throughout the book to help you see how these ideas translate into practical reality. One note. In most cases, my clients and the people I mention or interview have given me permission to use their real names and company names. In those cases where using a real name was not an option, I have changed the name of the client but kept the circumstances of the situation factual. Finally, keep in mind that this book is meant to be a companion you can customize on your branding journey. You may be in a particular pickle right now and need to use this book as an emergency measure. You may listen to this book in one sitting and with great gusto take all the actions recommended. Perhaps you will listen to one part, implement it, and then start listening again. This book may become a part of your yearly brand review. Or you and your team may use this book to transform the way you do business. In any and all of these cases and more, it's all about making this book work for you and your brand. Other than that, as your mother used to say, just do your best and call me if you have any questions. Sincerely, Karen Tiber Leland, Sterling Marketing Group, www.karenleland.com, New York City, New York. If you would like access to my blog, additional ideas, articles, ebooks, webinars, online training, and other free stuff and goodies on social media, marketing, and business, team and personal branding, please visit me at www.karenleland.com or contact me at karen@karenleland.com. Part 1. Ready, Aim, Brand. Chapter 1. The New Branding and Marketing Mindset and Myths. How to brand yourself and your business in the digital age. In its heyday, when the Oprah Winfrey Show was the holy grail of marketing, every new client would invariably ask, "Can you get me on Oprah?" They were all convinced that whatever they were hawking, everything from self-published books on CEO skills for daddies to a new and improved peanut butter, was a perfect fit for the queen of daytime television. If only they could reach that peak of media greatness, the magic would rub off and they would rake in millions. In reality, about 95% of them were not a good fit for the show and its audience. Regardless, clients still insisted, "My main goal is to be on Oprah." Very few ever made the cut. In the first place, getting on the show was extremely difficult, the realm of the lucky few, and could take months, if not years. For those who did succeed in being booked, full disclosure, I was on as a guest expert based on one of my books, the show did not always turn out to be the panacea that cured all their promotional ills. Guests whose books and products were actually a perfect fit for the Oprah audience had strong results, but for others, it gave a boost to their credibility but did not necessarily translate into more business or higher sales. I did some consulting with one best-selling author who was strongly leaning towards turning down interviews with several prominent media outlets simply because she was already scheduled to appear on Oprah. When I suggested that wasn't a strategically sound branding move, she retorted that she had been on the show with her first book and as a result of the Oprah effect, it had become a hit. "I understand your temptation to take this approach," I said, "but your first book was several years ago, and the internet and social media have changed things. The audience and the way people buy books has shifted." Nonetheless, she insisted on focusing the vast majority of her book branding efforts on Oprah and privately expressed to me a few months later how disappointed she was that it had not resulted in the flood of book sales and seminar enrollments she had expected. In fact, her publisher, anticipating the Oprah windfall, had published a much higher than usual number of books for the first run. In the end, she did sell books from the Oprah appearance, but about 50% fewer than her publisher had planned for. Fast forward to today. The Oprah Winfrey Show is no longer on the air, and overall a paradigm shift in branding and marketing has taken place. The most successful entrepreneurs, business owners, and individuals have set their sights on developing a long-term platform for brand and buzz building over time, instead of hoping for an overnight success. That's really the key to the new branding and marketing mindset, the recognition that building a brand, be it personal, team, or business, is the result of an ongoing, steady stream of consistent small efforts, not a series of one-off gigantic pushes. As a branding and marketing consultant, I've observed 3 specific shifts in my field that every entrepreneur and executive needs to be aware of. Shift 1. From the lucky few to the persistent many. Social media has leveled the playing field and made obsolete the old mindset, which favored the lucky few. In other words, if you were fortunate enough to get written about in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, or appear on Oprah, you moved to the top of the press heap and considered yourself as having arrived. That was the old model. Today, businesses, big and small, that are consistent in their branding are getting PR, buzz, and attention. It doesn't take a big, complicated marketing plan, but it does require a persistent approach to promotion. Consider the world of book marketing. In the past, when an author would sign a book deal, a publisher would do all the legwork to promote the book. An internal PR department or external PR agency hired by the publisher would send out press releases and create a campaign to get exposure for the book and its author. The highest profile authors, the lucky few, got the most PR support from the publisher, and the larger pool of smaller fish received just a month or two of minimal PR support. In the interest of getting their books sold, many authors hired a PR firm at their own expense to do additional publicity, which could cost them $20,000 to $40,000 for a 4-month campaign. The results were all over the map, and once the 4 months were up, the book was not considered new or fresh enough to promote further, at least not with any intensity. Today, many authors, whether their books are self-published or traditionally published, have taken book promotion into their own hands with the background support of PR firms, webmasters, online services, and marketing and branding consultants. The average self-managed campaign can be done on a budget of $12,000 instead of $20,000. And the window for promotion has grown from a few months to a few years or more for books whose topics are evergreen in nature. Book promotion is no longer a sprint won by the lucky few, but a marathon conquered by the persistent many, and at a lower cost. The same holds true for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Those who are making themselves ubiquitous in their fields through the consistent use of content marketing, PR, speaking, and other brand-building strategies are getting noticed as the thought leaders in their industries. Sidebar: be ubiquitous. In the past, you put your business, book, or product out there and hoped the media found you. Today, you become ubiquitous in your field of expertise, and journalists and potential clients looking for experts find you. The goal is to become the haystack high up in the field, not the needle buried deep down in the pile. This new mindset is all about how your proactive efforts put the power and the possibilities of being known within your reach. For example, I know one woman who almost died due to a severe soy allergy. Inspired by her experience, she began writing widely about the topic on food allergy forums, nutrition blogs, and other relevant online venues. After she had spent about a year consistently contributing via blogs, recipes, comment sections, etc., a reporter from the New York Times, who was writing a story on the subject, called wanting to interview her. Since my client was neither a published book author nor a nutritionist, she was curious as to how the reporter had made the connection. "How did you find me?" she asked. "I Googled the topic, and your name came up everywhere," the reporter replied. End of sidebar. Shift 2. From the big stick to small and targeted. As with the Oprah example from the beginning of this chapter, another change in the branding and marketing mindset is that success is no longer the result of 2 or 3 big media hits. In the past, the goal was to be covered by a major magazine, newspaper, or TV program. Those hard-to-come-by hits were considered to make or break your business, book, or product. Today, success doesn't hinge on a few hot hits to a huge audience, but on hundreds or thousands of smaller ones targeted to just the right users for your brand. I find that for many entrepreneurs, experts, and executives, it's difficult to shift out of the old paradigm since the allure of the most popular, biggest, and best-known media outlets is so deeply ingrained. I recently had a conversation with a woman who wanted blog reviewers for her new product launch only if they received monthly hits numbering in the millions. She didn't realize that a blog that gets 10,000 hits a month but targets her ideal audience was worth far more than a blog with millions of hits whose audience wasn't on the mark. Finding the right audience, small and targeted, instead of going for the one with the most viewers, the big stick, can make all the difference. Be honest, if I asked you which you would prefer, a popular pin on Pinterest or an appearance on the Today Show, which would you choose? I've put this question to thousands of people in my keynote speech and webinars, and the vast majority raised their hands for the Today Show. It's perfectly understandable, but not always the right answer. One of my favorite examples of this is the entrepreneur Holly Ziri, owner of the online retail business Cami Bands. I learned Ziri's story when I interviewed her for my previous book, Entrepreneur Magazine's Ultimate Guide to Pinterest for Business. In August 2011, Ziri was offered the opportunity to appear on the Today Show to discuss her sartorial creation, the Cami Band, a multi-purpose wardrobe extender for women that acts as a cleavage cover, among other things. The result of Ziri's appearance on the show was a happy 3,500 hits to her website and an influx of orders. In December of that same year, a week before Christmas, a huge flood of orders suddenly came in. Ziri checked and saw she had received 40,000 hits to her website over a 4-day period. The source of those hits, according to Google Analytics, was users on Pinterest who had pinned images of the cami band found on her site. Ziri's brand was helped by being on the Today Show, but it went viral via Pinterest, a social media site representing her exact audience. 80% of Pinterest users are women between the ages of 25 and 54. According to an analysis by Shopify, Pinterest customers spend an average of $80 with each order, twice that of Twitter and Facebook customers. It may be a smaller audience than the Today Show, but for Ziri, it packed a bigger impact. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to get booked on a major media outlet. It's terrific. If you can get word out about your brand on a known television, radio, or print media outlet, by all means do. I always aim to get my clients the big hits. I just don't make the mistake of thinking, 1, it's all you have to do, 2, it's the only way to go, and 3, it's always going to produce the best results. If you recognize the value of the big hits for what they are, great leveraged credibility for your brand by association, then you win, even if they don't drive huge traffic to your site or inspire customers to knock down your door. Today, you don't have to wait for the big sticks of media to deem your work worthy of attention. You will be much more successful if you aim your brand building at smaller venues that attract the perfect audience for you instead of that one giant hit. Just remember, getting in front of a huge audience won't grow your business if it's the wrong audience for you. Shift 3, from a sprint to a marathon. A potential client recently asked me, what conversion rate can I expect over the next few weeks in terms of new business if we put out this press release? That's the wrong question, I said. The value of the release can't and shouldn't be measured by short-term conversion rates alone. Press releases, social media, blogging, and other content marketing and business development activities, both online and off, are about the persistent, ongoing process, a marathon, of building a platform, creating credibility, and increasing the number of people you funnel into your potential client pipeline or network. They are not about a quick sprint towards a short-term outcome. Converting the people you have funneled into your pipeline into clients, fans, or connections may take weeks, months, or years, but this new mindset leads you to strategies that will keep that pipeline full. In short, you need to start and maintain a bunch of small fires to keep your brand burning hot. Here's an example from my own business. Years ago, I wrote a marketing article for my then column in the Huffington Post. I got paid nothing to write it, and honestly, I don't even remember the specific topic. Regardless, it must have struck a chord with at least a few people, because I received an email from a reader saying she had enjoyed the post and thought I should connect with a media trainer named Susan Harrow. At the time, I had no idea who Susan was, so I looked her up on the internet. We seemed to have some professional crossover, and she looked interesting enough, so I sent her a LinkedIn invitation. One side note here. Whenever I reach out to someone online who does not know me, I like to include a link to my LinkedIn profile, as well as a few articles I've written or that have been written about me. This is my way of saying I'm a legitimate business person and not some online nutter out to sell, harass, or hound you. There is a whole lot of crazy out there, which has led to people being a bit hesitant when a message arrives in their inbox from someone they don't know. So it's important to establish your credibility early on. Part of the value of treating branding as a marathon is that you end up with an online history that validates who you are and where you have come from. Susan must have liked what she saw, or at least it didn't scare her, because she accepted my LinkedIn request and sent me a to-the-point message saying, I looked at your website and I loved the vibrancy. Let's set up a time to chat by phone. A week later, we were on the telephone having a great conversation and discovered that we lived in the same city, about 10 minutes away from each other. What are the odds? Taking advantage of geography, we decided to meet for lunch. Over pad thai noodles and chicken sauté with extra peanut sauce, we continued to delight in our personal and work similarities. At the end of the meal, Susan looked at me with a gleam in her eye and said, "Let's order dessert." That's when I knew we'd be friends for life. About a month later, Susan sent me a client referral. It was a small branding strategy project worth about $3,500. A few months later, that client called me saying they had a vendor who was looking for the type of work I did. That resulted in a 6-month branding strategy and implementation project with a $30,000 price tag. For a period of 2 years, I kept track of all the business that came to me through Susan's referral and her referral's referral. At the last count, it was $150,000. My point is that we're so crazy busy trying to measure the immediate return we get on branding activities, be it social media or speaking at a conference, that we are missing out on the long-term impact of these actions. When I wrote that one little blog post for free, I didn't know where it would lead. I had no expectation that it was going to do anything beyond increasing my credibility. Ultimately, it not only led to business, but to this day, Susan is one of my closest friends and colleagues, and that is priceless. Once you understand and embrace the powerful shifts in branding and marketing that are going on in today's digital world, you'll be itching to jump headlong into becoming a branding big shot in your field. Not so fast. Several times a week, I get a call from an exasperated entrepreneur or executive complaining about the money they've spent hiring someone in the web design, social media, branding, marketing, or PR space who did not deliver what they expected or wanted. Sometimes this is a function of poor hiring, but often it's a case of poor timing. In the rush to get into the game, business people regularly skip the preparation work necessary to make brand-building activities as efficient and effective as possible. The next chapter will introduce you to a specific path for achieving thought and industry leadership efficiently and effectively, one smart step at a time. Sidebar: What's in a word? I want to take a few seconds to discuss some of the terms I'll be using throughout this book. Although this may drive the word perfectionists among you crazy, I'm going to play a little fast and loose with language. Specifically, I'm going to take some creative license with the words branding, marketing, promotion, public relations. Although the focus of this book is on designing, building, and accelerating a brand, be it personal, team, or business, in the world we live in, it's harder than ever to tuck these terms into a nice, neat bento box of business school terminology. In real-world practice, branding, marketing, promotion, and PR work side by side in a coordinated effort. It's often hard to tell where one begins and the other ends. Take an example from one of my clients, Learning as Leadership, or LAL as they're known. They offer personal mastery programs for executives of Fortune 500 companies. I was working with co-founder Shane Hughes to craft a blog post for Forbes.com focusing on an experiment Shane conducted where he banned email in his company for a week. The post was popular and became #1 on the Forbes.com site for a few days. This, of course, created an expanded awareness of the LAL brand, increased traffic to the company website, and enhanced LAL's social proof and credibility. All good. A year later, Shane was sitting in his office when he got a copy of Arianna Huffington's latest book, Thrive. It turned out that Miss Huffington had seen Shane's post on Forbes.com and included a reference to it and LAL in her book. How do you categorize that? Branding? Marketing? PR? I would say in reality it was a combination of all three, but whatever you call it, it was good for business. End sidebar. Chapter 2. The Marketing Mastery Pyramid, the Path to Industry and Thought Leadership. Almost every entrepreneur, expert, and executive I encounter boldly declares, "I want to be a thought leader." My half-joking response? Well, first, you have to have some thoughts. In other words, you can't just declare yourself a thought or industry leader. It doesn't happen because you say so. It happens because the world says so. In order to be a thought or industry leader, you need to rise to such a level of expertise or excellence that people, media, other industry leaders, clients, etc., will seek you out as a recognized authority. The big question is, how do you get there? The answer is that you need to...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?